So did you know when you're at a place in life where you feel like things couldn't get any worse, that Jesus said you're blessed and that you're called, you have a job? Sounds weird, right? But hang with me. I want to walk through this with you. And at the end, we have something I want you to do to interact together online. So in the book of Matthew, there's this part where we call the Beatitudes. It's kind of where Jesus, he sees this huge crowd of people following him, and he climbs up this mountain, or not a mountain really, a hill. He climbs up this hill and with some of the people closest to him, and he begins to teach this crowd of people about the kingdom of God, about this new thing that God is doing on earth, where he's kind of taking everything that people know and turning it upside down. And so he starts to teach, and he tells basically us that, and the people that were there, that they're blessed. Watch this. He says, you're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there's more of his rule. So when you can't take any more, he says you're blessed. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. So when you're grieving loss, he says you're blessed because God's with you. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. So when you're just content with what you have and who you are, and that's it, he says you're blessed. You're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink in the best meal you'll ever eat. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, you find yourselves cared for. So when you're caring for others to the point where you just can't do any more caring, you're blessed because then God cares for you. You're blessed when you get your inside world right, your mind and your heart put right. Then you see God in the outside world. So when you get the inside of you right, you start to see God, and you're blessed. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. So when you can make peace rather than divide, you're blessed. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. And then he goes on after that, and I can't imagine what people were thinking at that moment, or even maybe what you're thinking, because that sounds completely backwards and upside down. But then he goes on to say, if you're a follower of God, if you're following him, you have a job, you're called. So you're not only blessed, you're called. And he describes it two different ways. And the first way reminds me of my guacamole recipe. I'll follow up with that in a minute. It says, let me tell you why you are here. You are here to be salt seasoning that brings out the God flavors of the earth. If you lose your saltiness, how will people taste godliness? You've lost your usefulness, and you'll end up in the garbage. So he says you're salt seasoning. And the reason that reminds me of guacamole is because I make really good guacamole. So if you ever want to come over and have some, I make really good guacamole. And I have people ask me all the time, how do you get it to taste so good? And I say, it's the salt. It has way more salt than you'd ever think. But if you don't put in enough salt, it doesn't taste as good. That salt makes the recipe. It makes it good. And so when we are following God, we are that salt. We're what brings God's goodness to the people around us. And he says it in another way too. He says, here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors of the world. God's not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house, be generous with your life. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. So you're going to be salt, you're going to show God to others, but you're going to shine God's light to others too. We're to bring saltiness and light to other people in the world, and those things point to God, who is good and right there with us. So I told you I'd have a job for you. So here's what I want you to do today. Take a minute and think of, or maybe throughout the rest of the day something will come to you, but what is a way that you are blessed that maybe you didn't think of in that way before? What's something in your life that shows you are blessed because you follow God? And I want you to put that down, put a picture, put a comment, something in, hashtag it, totally blessed. And let's see if we can share with each other ways that God's blessing us today, and maybe spark conversations with our friends. All right, guys, see you soon. Bye.